Hello, Safe Harbor. Pastor Rich here, praying you're doing well during this time. Again, going through Mark, we're in chapter 10 now, looking at what is the cost of discipleship as Jesus has been defining it. And we just had the rich young ruler who lacked one thing, his calling, to where he would not sell his possessions and follow Jesus. And Jesus' great line when they ask, well, who can be saved? This guy would seem to have, he's the prime target, it would seem. They've been looking for guys like this, and Jesus is saying, no, it's like the children that you were trying to keep away from me. Those are the people we're going after, those who will receive grace, not those who are trying to prove their way. And then Peter says, we start in verse 28 of chapter 10, and Peter says to the Lord, we have left everything to follow you, because they're the ones that did obey the call to leave everything and follow. And so Peter's wondering, about their own status, and he says, well, no one who has left brothers or sisters, mothers and fathers, children or fields for my sake in the gospel will fail to receive 100 times as much in this present age, homes, brothers, sisters, mothers, fields, along with persecutions, and in the age to come eternal life. But the last will be first, and the first last. And then they were on their way to Jerusalem, with Jesus leading the way. The disciples are amazed, and those who are following are in fear. Again, he looked to the 12 and said what was going to happen to him. We're going up to Jerusalem. The Son of Man will be delivered. Chief priests, teachers of law, they will condemn him to death. They will hand him over. They will mock him, spit at him, flog him, and kill him. And then 3 days later he will rise. Then James and John, the sons of Zebedee, came to him and said, Teacher, we want you to do for us whatever we ask. What do you want me to do for you? We want one of us to sit on your right and the other on your left when you're in your glory. You don't know what you're asking. Can you drink the cup I drink or be baptized with the baptism I'm baptized with? Yep, they said. Well, you will drink the cup I drink and be baptized with the baptism I'm baptized with, but to sit at my right or my left is not for me to grant. For there's a place that's been prepared. When the other 10 heard about it, they were angry with James and John. And Jesus called them together and said, those who are regarded as rulers over you, the Gentiles, they lord it over with authority, but not so with you. Instead, whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant. Whoever wants to be first must be the slave of all. For even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and give his life as a ransom for many. Wow, there's so much here. Again, with the theme of cost of discipleship, Jesus does tell his apostles, listen, you have given up much, you have chosen to follow me, and you will receive. If you've given up certain things, he talks about those things which you will receive. Some of them in this present life, but again, Jesus redefines things according to his kingdom economy. So they've given up literal things, and the things that Jesus talks about that is the promise of those who follow him and who are sacrificial disciples, they will receive. And he lists the same things, but he spent the whole gospel redefining those things, right? Those who do the will of God is my brother, my sister, my mother. You gain brothers in the faith. And he even uses that parabolic language we saw from the beginning, 100-fold, with the growth with the kingdom. And so they will be getting things because they follow, but these are the spiritual rewards, and then in the future, eternal life. And also, he didn't sneak it in, but if you're not careful, you can miss that persecutions are also in there, that they could be received as well. And so then we have the parabolic statement there at the end. The first will be last and the last first. We just saw that with the children, right? The children should have been last. They were made first. The rich young ruler, he should be first. He's made last. We see the great reversal that Jesus does in his kingdom. And now we have, I think for the third or fourth time, Jesus speaking to them in non-parabolic language, no riddles here, as he's going up to Jerusalem. This is right before the triumphal entry. He's going up to Jerusalem, and now it says people are really taking him seriously. This is the happy-go-lucky crowd that's been following him around because he might provide another free meal. There's a sense of tension and foreboding here now, and the disciples are a little bit worried, and now he's saying again what's going to happen, and each time he gives a little more detail about the mocking and the spitting and the flogging. It's getting very real here about these predictions. And 3 days later will rise. And in the context of all this, of talking about servant and family, we still have the apostles, in this case James and John, who are two of the top three. Peter, James, and John are kind of the inner circle, and so they just take him aside. Typically they probably have big groups, leadership. They get together and they talk it all out. Everyone's on the same page, but this is some politicking going on between two that want to rise up. And that question, we want you to do for us whatever we ask. And Jesus he's not going to fall for that one. He's going to ask, so what exactly is it that you want? Well, we want to set at your right and your left, which would be the places of honor and status in your glory. Now, there's an obvious foreshadowing here to him being on the cross. Who's really in his glory when he's glorified there on the cross? Partially, right and his left are those being crucified. There is an allusion to that. I believe there's a connection there. But Jesus again takes the conversation back to the cost of discipleship. Can you really drink the cup I drink and be baptized how I will? And that's, again, metaphorical language. Will you be able to forego the types of things that people who are close to me are getting ready to forego? Are you going to be able to go through that? And without batting an eye or asking a question, they say yes. And Jesus comes with the teaching, well, yes, you will have some of that. That will happen to you. And, as happens whenever you're supposed to be a brotherhood of so many, and you have the politicking go on, word gets back, and now the other 10 are really upset with James and John. It's bad enough that it looks like Jesus has taken Peter, James, and John on some private tours already, and now they're trying to one up amid being there. And in the last chapter or so, Peter said something really stupid, and Jesus has referred to him as Satan in that teaching. So they're maybe thinking, well, politically, it's our move. If Peter screwed up so bad that he's going to be Satan, and we're the two out of the inner three, and we are brothers, and we're going to look out for each other, let's go for it. And you wonder if there was only one position, would the brother turn on the brother even? But Jesus then calls them together. Don't know if Jesus announced it, how they all found out, but anyway, they're angry. And Jesus basically, again, trying to explain, what does the kingdom look like? How does it operate? And he compares it against the world. The Gentiles, they lord it over you. It's all about decision making for them and authority. And he says, in my kingdom, it's your relationships of service that's how you're regarded as at my right and at my left. And so he does still teach them, what does it mean to be at my right and my left? Now in glory, the Father has divvied out places for that, so Jesus isn't answering that question. But in the economy of the kingdom, of how Jesus is setting it up, he defines it for them. Not those who are looking to be served, but those who are willing to serve. It's that great reversal of how everything that Jesus teaches is opposed to the way the world operates. And they're still stuck in the way the world operates. And so, so much of the difficulty of grasping on to some of this radical teaching of what it means to be a disciple is letting go of the way that you've always understood power, authority, influence, decision-making, posturing, all the way, everything that you have learned through the culture, through the media, through school, handed down through family. It's a radical reorientation. And Jesus is saying, I'm new wine, new wineskins. You cannot operate according to the power structures you're accustomed to and be great in my kingdom. The rich young ruler just learned that, boys, and now you need to learn that. You can't be, and that's another thing. Since the rich young ruler, he went away, maybe they were threatened by him that he would take this position, and like, man, this is an open chance, let's go for it. And so the first will be last, the last will be first. That sounds like silly little riddles to some, but it is the definition of how his kingdom will work. And even then, again, his teaching, he will be the ransom now for many. He will be the chief servant and the example of everything he's talking about. Everything that he's putting forth, he is that example for, and we're to follow that example. We'll see you next time for a 12-minute mark. God bless you.